All right, we are going to go ahead and solve systems of equations by graphing. Now, it's important to remember that the solution is where the lines cross. So when we graph the two lines, the solution is the point at which the lines cross. Now, it's important to note that the lines must cross at an exact point, and to write down the solution of the equation, we are basically just writing down the point at which the lines cross. It's very important to remember that. So we have two lines in this first example. The first line is y equals negative 8x plus 4. And the second line is y equals negative 1x minus 3. Notice how I have put or placed a negative 1 in front of the x. It was not there automatically, but in algebra we know that if nothing is in front of an x, that's just the same as saying 1x. Alright, so one thing we need to remember is that all lines are written in the form y equals mx plus b. B is where we begin, and m is how we move. So for our first line, y equals negative 8x plus 4, we begin at positive 4. So I'm going to place a point on my y-intercept at positive 4. Now our slope, or how we move, is negative 8 over 1. Notice how I write that as a fraction, because the top part, the numerator, tells us how far to go up or down, and the denominator tells us how far to go to the right. Because our slope is negative, we're going to go down and then right. So starting where we began at positive 4, count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then right 1. After you have your 2 points, connect them and you have your first line. For our second line, b is negative 3. Remember that even though that's a minus, it acts as a negative. So I'm going to place my beginning point at negative 3. Our slope is negative 1 over 1, so we will travel down 1 and right 1. So starting where we began, go down 1, right 1, and we actually do not need to place any more points on the graph because we can already see that our lines intersect at the point 2, negative 4. This means that our solution to the systems of equations is 2, negative 4. And if we were to check our work, we would plug in 2 for x and negative 4 for y into these two lines, just like we did in the examples before this. For letter B, we again are checking to find the system of equations. I'm going to write the line on the side so that you guys can see this a little bit easier. I'm graphing the first line, and I'm going to go ahead and write my slope as negative 5 over 1 x plus 2. At the top, I'll write my slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, just so that I can keep straight what is b and what is m. So for our first line, I'll graph this in black. We begin at positive 2. Our slope is negative 5 over 1, and because it's negative, that means that we're going to travel down 5 and right 2. So from where we began, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and right 1. When you connect your points, your line will look just like that. For our second line, I'm going to write this one in blue. We have y equals 1 over 1. Remember, I'm writing my slope as a fraction, x minus 4. For this line, we begin at -4. Remember the minus x as a negative, so go ahead and place your point there. Our slope is positive 1 over 1, so we're going to go up 1 and right 1. So go up 1, right 1. You can see where your lines cross, so we will write our solution as the point 1, -3. Again, to check your solution, we would plug in our point where x is 1 and y is 3 back up into both of these lines. Okay, now for letter C, it's the same type of situation where we're graphing our lines and checking to see where they intersect, because that is the solution. B for the first line is, you guessed it, -1. So I'm going to place my first point at -1. Now my slope is 1/3. It's positive, so I'm going to go up 1 and right 3. Up 1, right 3 from where we began, and then I can also squeeze in one more point on the graph. Our second line I'm going to graph in blue. For our second line, we begin at +2. Our slope is the same. So again, I'll go up 1 and right 3. And carry on one more point because we have space. Down 1, left 3. And I bet you guys remember what this is called. This is called no solution, because our lines will never intersect. They are parallel, which means that they will continue on to infinity and beyond because they are parallel and they will never intersect. So that means that there is no solution. All right, for the last couple, we are going to graph and check to see where our lines intersect because the point is the solution. I'm going to write above each line y equals mx plus b to remember what part of my line is our slope and what part is our y-intercept. The first line I'm going to graph in red, and b is -4, which is the same as -4. So go ahead and place your point at -4. The slope is -1/4, so we're going to go down 1 and right 4. For our second line, b is +3. So we begin at +3. Our slope is 3/2, so we would go up 3 and right 2. But there's a problem with that. The problem is that we can't go up 3 and right 2 without going off our graph. So if you remember from class, if you can't go up and right, if you go off the graph, then we just do the opposite. So we would go down, which is opposite of up, and left, which is opposite of right. So starting where we began, we'll go down 3 and left 2, and then one more time, down 3, left 2, and when you look at your graph, you can see that the lines intersect at the point -4 -3. For our last graph, our first line, we begin at +3. Our slope is 1/4, so we will go up 1 and right 4, and then the opposite from where we began, which is down 1 and left 4. Okay? Our second line, we begin at -3. Our slope is -5/4. I will write this down for you guys. And we would go down 5 and right 4. But again, we can't do that without going off the graph. So we do the opposite. Up 5, left 4. So let's go ahead, do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so as you can see, our lines do intersect at a point, and they cross at the point -4, +2. Okay, so that is all I've got for you guys. Nice job with graphing. Remember that the solution to a system of equations is always going to be where the lines cross, that point. All right, so go ahead and start your assignment, and we will see you guys in a couple days.